Hello, Gary Stearman. Time for another edition of Prophecy in the News, and you'll want to stay with us today. We have with us the producers of Watchers 7, L.A. Marzulli and Richard Shaw. You need to know about this particular DVD. Well, L.A. Marzulli, welcome once again to Prophecy in the News.
Thank you, Gary.
It's good to have you here. And Richard Shaw, likewise. Now, Richard Shaw is, how can I put this best, a gifted visual artist to begin with. I'm always astounded when I watch your DVDs at the clever things you do with a camera. I'm just amazed.
Well, thank you, Gary.
And to me, putting together something, a video production, rests on the idea of translating the message into a visual experience. And not everybody can do that. And when you look at Watchers 7, and we're going to talk about what's in Watchers 7 here in just a moment, when you watch this particular video, you're going to be pulled into something, and I believe that all Christians need to be made aware of the times in which we live.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, L.A., this video speaks to that.
You know, I think it does. One of the most astounding clips that we have in Watcher 7 is we have the former defense minister of the Canadian government, okay, Paul Hellyer, coming on camera, and he states UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. Now, this guy, I mean, for this man to come out and make a statement like that is absolutely profound. And I believe the church needs to look at the statement and understand that the phenomena is real and it's not going away. All right, most people don't understand this, but the increase of UFOs, even from April 2013, where they're getting about 1,000 UFOs per month, has now doubled. The total for September, October has been about 2,000 UFOs sighted worldwide per month. Something is going on, and it's time to address the subject, and Watcher 7 does.
Well, L.A., for decades now, Prophecy in the News has been dedicated to the idea that prophecy is being fulfilled in our day. With the return of Israel to the land, with various Old Testament prophecies, just one little step short of being fulfilled, we're living in very extraordinary times. Now, on that basis, we find ourselves moving into an era that is somewhat difficult to explain. In other words, a lot of people will say, well, UFOs, Area 51. Why I saw on television the other day that somebody said that Area 51 is a place where they just test the latest military jets. There are no UFOs there. It's just an ordinary Air Force base, and on it goes. And some people say, well, they actually found little creatures in a Roswell crash, didn't they? Oh, no, that's all been debunked. It was a weather balloon, and these were special suits being worn by people testing out high-altitude weather balloons. It really wasn't little people at all. And all this abduction stuff and UFO appearances, it's not real. And I'm sure you run into this all the time.
Oh, we do, and the reason why we made Watcher 7, which, by the way, is called Physical Evidence, we actually went in with hardcore physical evidence. So the skeptic has a real difficult time, or will have a difficult time, debunking this. For instance, one of the most profound pieces of evidence we had was a four-fingered handprint that was found on a wall at an abduction site. A person was taken from the bedroom, okay, and it gets even stranger. Half of the bed had magnetic properties. The other half of the bed didn't. And on the wall, right next to the bed, was a four-fingered handprint the size of a child's, which fluoresces under fluorescent light. We took that into the lab. We took a sample of that, put it under a scanning electron microscope with an EDX feature, and what we saw, and I asked the technician right on camera, is this a human print? And he looks at me and he goes, no, it's not. It doesn't have any of the properties that a human hand would leave on a wall.
Well, now, for decades, abductees have been saying that these little people who took them had small three-fingered hands,
Sure.
3 fingers and a thumb.
Right.
And that they were not human at all.
With larger than normal pads on the ends of the tips of the fingertips.
Yeah.
Because normally if you lay your hand flat against the wall, you get a handprint, but the ends of your fingers don't end up being larger. And that's
They were
what we
sort of bulbous
discovered.
shaped.
Yeah.
Each finger and the end sort of ballooned out, which is not a human. It's just not a human handprint. Period.
And so, the question I want to put to you, in the face of all this, where does a Christian stand in the middle of all of these things, if in fact they're really happening? And L.A. and Richard make, I think, a very good case that they are happening. Where does this place me as a Christian, a believer in Christ?
Well, I think it comes down to where Jesus warns us it'll be like the days of Noah when the Son of Man returns. We've talked about this before. It's in all of our books and DVDs. And Jesus warns us it'll be like the days of Noah. Well, what's going on with the days of Noah? We've got the presence of the fallen angels coming down, having sex with the women, and creating this hybrid being known as a Nephilim. Well, are we seeing anything like that in modernity? The answer, in my opinion, is yes. We're seeing a very vigorous breeding program that's taking place. Dr. Jacobs, who we interviewed for Watcher 7, talks about this. He's in despair at what he sees, and he doesn't have a Christian perspective like we do. So he looks at this, and he's in absolute despair. I look at the phenomenon, I say, oh my gosh, they're doing, the fallen angels, the fallen angelic hosts, are doing exactly what they did in the days of Noah. They are messing with the gene pool, and in my opinion, attempting to create man in their own image. And this is why Christian people need to know, because I believe it also ties into what is known as the mark of the beast in the book of Revelation. I think that is a genetic changer that's put under the skin, and it will change that person's DNA.
So essentially you're making or substantiating the case that there is an intersection between normal, everyday human life and supernatural life.
Absolutely.
And you believe strongly in the supernatural. How would you define the supernatural? Because a lot of people reading the Bible have read about angels, and they have read about miracles of some sort. Some people believe in the biblical miracles. Others don't. They find that hard to believe. And yet, I think if you believe Scripture, you have to believe the miracles. Where do you put the supernatural, quote unquote, in all this?
Well, I think most of what we see in the UFO phenomena, to me, it mirrors the accounts that we get from the Bible. I'll just give you one quick example, and this parallels an abduction scenario almost exactly. In fact, we sat down in Watcher 7 and discussed this with a woman who's a hypnotherapist. And the moment I say that, people go, "Oh, hypnosis!" It's not the type of stage hypnosis people are thinking of. It's just a light relaxing, and from that, people relax and they begin to remember things. Well, and she's worked with abductees for years. And so I said, there's a story in the Bible which talks about this man by the name of Peter who's in a jail cell. And all of a sudden, this angelic being pops through the wall. And that immediately took her, whoa. And I said, doesn't that mirror what you hear in the abduction phenomenon? But wait, it gets better. Peter's chained to the wall. He's not sure whether he's awake or asleep. He looks around. Everybody in the jail cell is switched off. In other words, they were asleep. Yeah. Again, she's like taken aback by that because that mirrors the abduction phenomenon. The jail cell opens. Peter goes through. We see matter and energy being manipulated by these angelic beings, just like we do in the abduction phenomena. So we have this account, this supernatural account of an angelic being visiting Peter, and then we move into modernity, and we see the same type of parallel when we look at the abduction phenomena, except it's not the good guys that are doing this. It's the fallen, in my opinion, it's the fallen angelic hosts back, just like they were in the days of Noah, messing with the gene pool, taking genetic material from people, forcing them to do some horrible things with experimentation on 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and those people are abducted at that young age, and horrible things are done to them. So this is what is in Watcher 7.
Wow. And I think that's a good answer, by the way. I really believe that Christians need to be aware of the times in which we live. In fact, Prophecy in the News is dedicated to that very premise, has been since J.R. started it years ago. And J.R. and I were in complete agreement that the supernatural is becoming more obvious as we approach the return of Christ for the church.
The veil is thinning.
Yeah, the veil is thinning. That's a very good way to put it. Richard, I want to ask you, as an individual with not only a spiritual base, you're a man of faith. You have been involved in Christianity in many different walks for years and years. As you put this together, edited Watcher 7 together as a unique video experience, what was the best part of it for you?
Oh, brother. Well, I think L.A. put it that one thing that I wanted to do with it was the physical evidence thing. I was tired of looking at UFO videos, and there's a lot of them out there that just show fuzzy pictures
Right.
of UFOs flying through the air. You can't really tell what it is. A lot of it's at night. Who can tell what a light at night actually is? There's just not enough definition to it. But I think there were several key things in Watcher 7 that really piqued my interest. One was going down and meeting Jaime Maussan in Mexico City, because Jaime has a very well-known UFO show that he's been doing for the past 20 years, and he has 4 million viewers, and people from all over the world send their footage to him. And so he just graciously gave me a whole hard drive full of this incredible footage,
That's amazing.
which a lot of it is in Watcher 7. And that was great. So we're now collaborating with him. And when I went to talk to his staff said, "Oh, do you want to go shoot some UFOs today?" And I said, "Yeah, are you serious?" And they said, "Yeah, but our flight was leaving in an hour, so there wasn't time to go do it. But I have a standing invitation to go down there, and they know where they appear to get some more shots of them."
It's a different world down there. Here, there's I think a general skepticism,
Yeah.
if you will, a scientific mentality that places faith in science, which says that these things are impossible, therefore they're not real. I think probably in Mexico that culture would be more accepting of the supernatural, which is not necessarily a good thing.
They're used to it down there. People see it all the time. It's not a big deal there, and the news media reports it, which is unlike here in the States. They kind of bury it, or they make light of it in some
Why would
way.
it be happening there instead of here? In other words, why would there be these daily events that you could go out and film?
Well, one theory is that they're not sending up jets to shoot them down, like we do here.
And indeed we do. A lot of reports of that. As we think of the abduction phenomenon, hybridization, which, by the way, is a Bible theme, when it comes to these strange things, in Daniel chapter 2, verse 43, whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, as iron is not mixed with clay. And they are not human beings. And they are attempting to mingle their seed with human beings. Well, Daniel says this is going to be a latter-day event.
I always thought one thing that drew us together originally was when I first heard him talk about this subject, that the book of Revelation and all of the apocalyptic things that happen always refer to the Antichrist as a beast.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, why is that? So it got me thinking years ago, wondering, is it an alien? Is it something from space? But then as you start going into more of the scriptures, you realize, well, this is the same guys that have been doing this for thousands of years, and they're just coming back in a more bolder sense. I truly believe that's what's happening.
Are you both convinced that we're living, I suppose, at the latter part of the latter days, as I am?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that time is ticking down. We don't know how many more of these things we're going to be able to make. I think Watcher 7 is great because it really lays hardcore evidence on the viewer's lap. For instance, there's a shot of a Turkish UFO, which is absolutely astounding. And it is some of the most, in my opinion, it's the best UFO footage I have ever seen. In that you see inside, the dome is open or whatever, the hatch is opened up. You see two alien beings standing in that aperture of the ship. You see the ship, and then other openings happen with other alien beings. But what Rick found out, which was incredible, and we showed this in Watcher 7, in front of these two alien beings, there's a table, and there seems to be someone lying on the table. So what's happening? And the video goes on. The original video taken in Turkey goes on for like 4 or 5 hours. They were just, this thing just hovered there in Turkey in the same place and just kind of rotated every now and then. It's all on film. We show much of this in Watchers. But in front of it is a table with a human being on. We are looking literally at an abduction taking place. And get this, Gary, there's this entity which looks different than the other two, which is moving at a very fast speed between the two entities in the table. He's doing something to whoever is lying on that table.
Wow.
It's profound.
And by the way, I've watched Watchers 7, and I have seen this, and words fail. You just have to see it. By the way, I should point out we're having a prophecy summit in March the 28th in Orlando, and both you and Richard are going to be speaking there. Is that right?
Can't wait. We're going to be coming back from Peru, so we'll have all sorts of new information on that.
New information
Yes,
at that
absolutely.
time. And new video, no doubt.
We'll be working on it.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Hey, you need to know about the March 28th Prophecy Summit in Orlando. Gary Stearman with a word about the upcoming Orlando Prophecy Summit, March 28th through 30th. It's going to be fabulous, Bob.
It's going to be the Prophecy Conference for the Ages. 24 speakers in sunny Orlando, Florida. The sunshine, the beaches, Disney World, Universal Studios, the Holy Land theme park, and 24 incredible speakers.
Like Chuck Missler, Bill Salas, L.A. Marzulli, and, by the way, Mark Biltz.
Don't forget Mark Biltz. 2 weeks before the blood moons hit Israel, Mark Biltz is going to be speaking at our conference. L.A. Marzulli, fresh off his trip to Peru, his hunt for the skulls and the skeletons of the Nephilim. It's going to be fabulous.
Bob, for our viewers in the southeastern United States, this is a one-day drive to a beautiful hotel, and we're going to have the most fabulous get-together you can possibly imagine. Be with us. Call the 800 number right now, 1-800-475-1111. We'll see you there. Well, guys, how do we sum all this up? You know, we have alien abduction. We have alien implants. We have clearer and clearer videos. We have now trace evidence, like a handprint on a wall. How much evidence do we have to get before there is a general impact on society, before people really begin to be conscious of the fact that something has changed?
I think that change is going to happen soon. What I mean by that is at some point in a not-too-distant future, some president, whether it's Obama or someone else, will stand up and mention to the public, sort of make a public announcement that we've known about these entities. They seem to be peaceful. Don't be alarmed. And as time goes on, we will reveal more information to you. Now, France and the UK, Belgium, Germany, Japan, Mexico, all have admitted that the UFO phenomenon is real. In April of this year, at the Citizens Hearing for Disclosure, they had a panel of experts in Washington, D.C., talking about the phenomena from all different paradigms, all different points of view, basically trying to say, look, this phenomena is real, and we have to end what Stephen Bassett calls the truth embargo. The American people have a right to know what is going on. What drives us in some ways is that the church is completely asleep for the most part. They won't look at the phenomena, and yet the church, we believe in the virgin birth, floating access, talking donkeys, 2 gold coins that appear out of a fish's mouth, staves that turn into serpents, men that get swallowed by great fish and then regurgitated 3 days later, and on it goes. In other words, we embrace the supernatural, and yet when we walk out of the building, we kind of switch hit the switch, and we don't look at anything or believe that the supernatural is actually manifesting today. And it is, and it's all around us.
Do you think that if people really became aware of this message, that there might be a revival in the church, that there might be a realization that we need to get out there with the gospel?
I think, too, that one of the things that you were mentioning earlier and Ellie was touching upon, and something that intrigues me, is that I like to see, not just call things supernatural, other than supernatural to me is something we can't explain, or it's invisible. Or invisible a lot of times is coined with spirituality. I can't see it, but it's there. This phenomena embodies all of that, but some of it is from a spiritual perspective, and other parts of it is technology. So it makes us go back.
Advanced technology.
Yeah, it makes us go back into ancient texts and scriptures and say, could this have been an attempt of describing a technology that we don't understand even today, but that we're just now getting glimpses of? And that really gets me excited, because that could mean that A lot of things that we didn't understand, we were reading in the Torah and the Old Testament, are now, could it be this? Are we seeing a parallel with these same beings or beings like them that are doing similar things? And that, to me, is really fascinating.
I should point out at this time that L.A. has also generated a book, the title of which is Further Evidence. And I want to read from the table of contents of Further Evidence. You talk about the abduction phenomenon, Chapter 1. By the way, you interviewed Dr. David Jacobs, and I want to ask you about that in a moment because I respect that man a great deal.
Very smart guy.
Very smart gentleman indeed. The Stephenville Lights, cattle and human mutilations, alien implants with Dr. Roger Lear. The whole missing time phenomenon is one chapter. There are several really good interviews in this book. I happen to be in the book as one of the interviewees, and I was very pleased to be able to contribute myself.
Thank you, Gary.
You talk about Mothman. You talk about alien hybrids. In other words, you cover all the bases, and you supply evidence that I think would be scarce in some other publications. The thing is, we can't pull our punches anymore, L.A. I think we have to let people know where we are.
There's also 50 photographs, and many of these are they're a little fuzzy, but some of the photographs are absolutely incredible. The Turkish UFO, for instance, is in the book. And we do this, further evidence, physical evidence, to try to get people at least to examine what is going on. I believe that if a person sits down and watches Watcher 7 and reads the book, they're going to come away. They're going to have their paradigm shaken and changed a little bit. I get emails, Gary, every single week from people all over the world telling me, oh my gosh, L.A., I've been a Christian for 30 years, and I watched the video, and all of a sudden I'm awake, and I realize, oh my gosh, this stuff is real. And it's making an impact, not only to the Christian, but I get letters from people from the other side. What I mean by that, a lot of New Agers will look at our stuff, look at these videos that we've done, read the books that I've written, and they'll write me and go, I get it, I understand, I've been deceived, I now have a relationship with Jesus Christ, I've accepted him as my Lord and Savior, what do I do now? And there's a little bit of dialogue that goes back and forth between us, and this is what makes it worth it. When people, when the light bulb goes off, or when someone comes across the line and gives their life to Christ.
You know, in Watcher 7, you interview a gentleman. I said I have great respect for him. His name's Dr. David Jacobs. He's a tenured professor at Temple University. The man is a genuine intellect. He began to interview people who claim to have been abducted. Now, we could talk about Dr. Jacobs for hours, but let's boil it down to a couple of minutes. And one thing about him really amazed me, and that was the conclusion he has come to after all these years. Tell us about that.
It's when I asked Dr. Jacobs, what is your conclusion? And he said to me, I have despair. I despair for the future. I used to have hope for the future. When I first got into this decades ago, I looked at the phenomenon. I was excited about it. Wow, extraterrestrials are coming. This is going to be great. Now he looks at the phenomena with despair. And the reason for that is, remember, he has no biblical axe to grind here. No, he's not coming from a biblical paradigm. Secular worldview, secular worldview. And he's saying that he believes that there's a breeding program that's going on, and he's afraid of that breeding program. He believes that more hybrid beings at some point, let me rephrase that hybrid beings will outnumber human beings at some point. That's what he looks at, and he looks at the future with despair because of that.
And he has had the experience of seeing that these aliens, quote unquote, and let's just use that common term, although there may be a better term, and the Bible has some of those.
Sure.
But he's
works,
come
though, for now.
Yeah. Now, he's come to his own private conclusion after observing these aliens for a few years that they're not people you can necessarily trust, right?
Basically, the bottom line for him is despair. He thinks there are motives. I can't get him to use the word sinister or anything like that. But he looks at it and he no longer trusts some of what at one point he used to believe that maybe this is a good thing, now it has gone to despair. So he's really run the sort of the gamut of emotions.
He looks at it as one civilization that's more advanced than ours, taking advantage of our civilization.
That's a great way to put it.
And in fact, if he could only know, that's a Bible theme. There is a very highly gifted technological civilization just behind the veil, and they are called the fallen angels.
Sure.
In the Bible, the fallen ones, sometimes they're referred to as the Nephilim, and you, of course, have spoken on that subject for many years now. But he's not as far off as you might think. In other words, he's come to this conclusion.
Look, we know that Satan comes with all signs and lying wonders. We know that from 2 Thessalonians. So why is it that we look at the Scripture and for some reason we pretend it doesn't exist? For some reason we just kind of sweep it under the rug and ignore it. It says the fallen one, the dragon, will come on this earth with all signs and lying wonders. I would propose to our audience that it's already happening. Watchers 7 in the book Further Evidence talks about this. We've got physical evidence of that the phenomena is real, burgeoning, not going away. It's time to wake up and begin to talk about it and deal with it.
And to watch great videos like this one, Watchers 7, the accompanying book. We're going to offer you these two items as a package, and we're calling it the Watchers 7 UFO package. Call the 800 number on your screen and specifically ask for the Watchers 7 UFO package, and the operators will know exactly what you're asking for. You'll get Watchers 7 and the book, which is called Further Evidence. Listen, I've scanned the book. I haven't had a chance to read it completely yet. It's a great book. You'll enjoy it. And more than that, it's informative. For you as a Christian, it's written from the Christian perspective. Now, for $49.90 plus shipping and handling, the Watchers 7 UFO package can be yours. And we're calling it a package because we're throwing in a little extra, as we always do. L.A. spoke at the Pikes Peak Prophecy Summit, and we have Volume 3 and Volume 4 of his presentations, which we're going to give you absolutely free as a bonus when you order the Watchers 7 UFO package. Call that 800 number. $44.90 plus shipping and handling gets you the Watchers 7 UFO package. You will not regret ordering this, believe me. Guys, I wish we had more time. It's, again, we
great.
always run out of time just when the conversation gets really interesting. Richard, I must congratulate you on doing an even better job of shooting pictures. I just have great respect for your talent there.
Thank you. It means a lot, Gary.
And I really do, and I'm not just saying that. L.A., best to you.
Thanks, Gary.
Blessings
Appreciate
in the
it.
Lord, and come again.
Absolutely.
And to all of you, I would wish you a great day in the Lord, and keep looking up, everybody. Prophecy in the News is a viewer-supported program made possible by our many friends around the world. Be sure you tune in every day for breaking news and our daily prophetic news updates at prophecyinthenews.com, or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/prophecyinthenews.